Hey there, Joseph here. So over the last few years, I've helped more than 50 experienced designers to land roles through warm conversations with hiring managers, not job boards, not mass application, just warm, honest conversations. Before any of that, I spent years on the other side of the table. I was the head of product design at ContactOut, a tool used by millions of recruiters to find candidates, and I've interviewed hundreds of those recruiters on exactly how they decide on who gets seen and who gets ignored. So I'm not guessing about how hiring works. I have sat in the seat before. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact system my clients use, and I call it the Backdoor Plan. So 3 things are going to happen. First, I'm going to show you why the hiring game is rigged against experienced designers and what's actually going on underneath. Second, I'll show you the system the people who land roles use instead. And third, and the most important part, as we go along, I want you to score your own job search stage by stage like a traffic light. So by the end of the video, you wouldn't just understand the plan, you have a map to your own job search, where it's strong and where it's quietly costing you. So grab something to write with, a pen or a paper, and let's get into it. First, let me start with the thing that nobody says out loud. If you've been applying and hearing nothing, you are probably starting to wonder, is it me? Is it you? After 30, 50 rejections, the voice starts to get louder. And I know it does because I've been there before. So I want to be clear before we go any further. This isn't about your skill. The work that you have is already good. The problem is that the system was built in a certain way and it wasn't built for you to come in from the outside. So here's how hiring actually works. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Picture every way into the company as a pyramid. At the bottom, the widest part, the job boards. Public posts anyone can apply to. Above that, we have the referral application. Same thing, it's just that now you have a referral link to apply to the same job board. And above that, we have recruitment agencies and talent pipelines where you're sitting on someone else's database waiting to get picked. Nearer to the top, as we near the top, the narrow part is the referrals. And these are the internal referrals or the external referrals. People who already know you inside the company or one step away, who can put your name forward directly to the hiring manager. Now watch the 2 directions because this is the whole thing. Hiring managers, like myself, we fill the roles from the top down. When I have a role open, I start with the people I already know and trusted, because that is way cheaper for me to find and far less risky for me to bet on. The public job post was going to be my last resort, right? And it's not my first move but the thing is that most candidates do the exact opposite. They pile in the bottom, the job boards, where it's the most crowded and the least likeliest tier there is. 2 different flows, 2 moving in completely different directions. And just I want you to kind of ask yourself, which direction are you swimming at? Which direction are you at? Which tier are you spending most of your time on? Right? And everything above the job boards then is what we call the hidden job market, right? These are not visible in the job boards. And the roles that get filled are with conversations before they ever posted. And the way that is nearer to the top are through the people who already knows you. And that is the backdoor. So forget about the 7 tiers if it's too confusing, right? The simpler way to kind of feel it and see it is to think about it as 3 doors. Think about it as getting into a club. The front door is the job board, where you and 500 other people are in one queue, filtered out before a human ever looks at your application. The middle is the agencies and the pipelines. You skip ahead a little, but you're still waiting on someone else's to pick you. In this case, the recruiter to filter the time, because that's their job, right? It is to filter and protect the time of the team. Then we have the backdoor, which is the referral right into the company, right into the hiring manager and the team, right? And you get invited in. There is no queue here. The hiring manager already wants to talk to you before the role is even posted. So now, be honest with yourself. Here's a week, Monday to Friday, morning and afternoon, 10 different blocks. Think about your actual job search last month or even last week and fill it in. Where did most of your hours go into? All right? So if you're like most people I talk to, it could look something like this. Almost the entire week will be based on front door activities, polishing the resume again, tweaking the portfolio again, sending application into a form and hearing nothing back. Maybe one block of it on a Friday, you will be chasing referral links from someone you barely know. 90% of your effort is on the channel that with the worst odds. And maybe for some of you, you have a larger network. You say, hey, Joseph, I just got laid off. And, I have a lot of people are sending me referrals, which is great. And maybe these people are just being more generous in this time. So your week could look something more like this. Half of it with targeted applications and the other half messaging people for those referral links. It could feel better, like you're finally doing the networking thing. But look at where it actually lands you. A referral link still drops you in the same queue, in front of the same recruiter in the same application system. And you skip a few people in line, for sure. But you did not skip the gatekeeper, the recruiter. So you're still waiting to be chosen. And here is how my client run their week. They still apply, but it is targeted. An hour or two for roles they genuinely excited about. And they still take referrals with their network when it comes and it offers them. Maybe another 10%, right? That takes their time. But 80% of the week goes to the backdoor, doing backdoor activities, reaching out directly to hiring managers, the design leaders, the people on the team inside the companies that they actually want to work for. And here's the part that most people miss. This isn't only about getting hired faster. It's also about finding out if the company is even right for them. It is in a 15 minutes conversation that you will learn the real scope, the real culture, the real vibe of the company, whether the role is anything that you picture it to be, anything that the role and the job board claims it to be. So you're testing your own assumption before you commit a single year of your life to the place, to the company. So sit with that math for a second, right? A 15 minutes chat can save you 15 months in the wrong company. And most people skip that chat, take the job off the description and find out the hard way 3 years deep in the company. So same week, same hours, one version aims to at the door that actually opens. So here's the truth underneath all of this again, right? Is that people hire people they know, like, trust. I repeat again. People hire people they know, like, and trust. Not resumes, not application, not portfolios. Your materials matters a lot. Don't get me wrong. But they only get you through the front door, right? The first door. And they will get you seen seriously and taken seriously. But they don't get you hired. Relationship actually do. And here's one more thing, right? Because it takes the fear out of the whole networking thing and this whole empire plan. A warm conversation that you have is just really an interview without the pressure, the power, and the power imbalance. You're not performing for a panel. You're just two people talking about the work instead and maybe the career story of both of you. So one quick thing before I keep going on is that if everything that I've been sharing so far is already making sense to you and you know that you would rather do this with help than figuring out alone by yourself, and here's the fast way in. If you are watching this on my site, the box is right below here in this video. If you're watching anywhere else, go to backdoor.careercreators.com, drop your email, and I'll send you on how it works and how to start straight away. If you rather see the full map before you decide, no worries, stay on with me, and that's exactly what the rest of the video will be. So a little bit myself is that, hey, I didn't learn this from a book. I lived this through my own experience, right? Through 18 years of my design career. When I first graduated from design school, I did everything right. I was top of my class. I was a scholar. I won international design awards. Is what you see here. I won first place at Australian packaging international, nationwide Australian packaging design competition. And I redid my portfolio hundreds of times as well. I even got published on the national newspaper here in Singapore. And all of that, I still got nowhere. 6 months. I got some interviews, but no job offers. And my savings was drying up. I was ready to give up. I was eating ramen noodles and bread every single day, right? But I couldn't, right? I couldn't. Both of my parents are wheelchair users. Growing up, I watched them beat the odds. where most people would never face. So I told myself, hey, this is just one small setback. And it is going to be a setup for a better story, and the story that I'm telling and sharing with you now. Then about the 6 months mark, one day, a recruiter, Lisa, messaged me on LinkedIn, and she just started her recruitment agency and was hosting a small networking night. A few hiring managers dropping by and asked if I would come. And I'm an introvert. I don't know about you, but I'm an introvert. And I didn't know what to wear, what to say. But I figured, hey, what I got to lose, right? So I went. A small bar in Club Street here in Singapore. There's warm lights, a couple of beer for courage for myself. And Lisa introduced me to two hiring managers, Andrew and Yuno. So the gentleman that you see in the middle is Yuno. And we talked for hours about travel, family, life, barely about work. And the next day, Lisa emailed and saying that, hey, they really enjoyed the chat and a role has just opened up, right? And a week later, they wanted to meet me proper. By the time I walked into their office, it really felt like a done deal. And a couple of interviews later, I got the offer. I didn't apply. I just connected with the right people, and the connections opened the door. And every one of those dream roles that I have in my career came the same way, through a person, not through a portal. So I started to wonder, right? If this keeps working for me, can it also work for other people? And it turns out it does. And that's what this rest of the video is about. So here's the whole thing in one map. Don't worry about reading every single word. I'm going to walk you through it all. So everything here points to that one thing here in the middle, the right role you love. And when I say right, I mean three things. First, the right pay, where you finally feel valued for what you are worth. Second, work with real purpose, the kind that uses your genius instead of you wasting it. And then finally, the right people, which is so important. A team and a manager you actually want to show up for. Pay, purpose, people. And if even one of those are missing right now, then this is for you. So to get there are three stages. First one is to get seen. Second, to get conversation. And third, to get the offer. And each one is where most people get stuck, is in a very specific way. And each one of them has three things that you can actually do about it. So as I go through each of them again, I want you to score yourself. Remember the traffic light, where green means that this is genuinely going to work, is working for you right now. And you are already getting results here. So great, good on you. Yellow means that you are doing something, but it is inconsistent, or maybe it's not landing. And red means it's broken and you're not doing it, or you're not doing it at all, right? So no judgment here. I just want to tell you up front that most people are mostly going to get yellow and red. And I was there too, right? The point isn't about feeling bad. It is about to find that one or two things that, if you really fix them, it would really change everything in your job search and in your career. So nice scores by the end. Let's go. So stage one is all about getting seen, right? But right now, I think on the flip side is where most experienced designers actually are, which is feeling invisible or half invisible, where your work is actually good and it is not landing. You have applied and you got ghosted and you feel overlooked. And people who don't have half your experience are still getting the call back and you still can't figure out why. Usually it's not the quality of your work, it's the signal, who you are, where you fit, and what actually changed because of you. When the signal is fuzzy, all of the experience reads as noise. So three things that fixes that. So here are the three things. Find your fit, fix your signal, and polish your proof. So first, find your fit. So most people target a title and a salary band. Senior, staff, principal, and somewhere around this range, all right? And that's the problem, because so does everyone else. You end up looking like one of the hundreds. So finding your fit is about getting specific about the actual problem that you want to solve and the kind of company that you want to solve them in. And if you're that clear, you start competing on your title and you start being the obvious person or the obvious hire for that one particular kind of team. And everything after this, your profile, your outreach, your conversation, all gets built on that clarity. Vague target, vague everything. So how I like one exercise that I do with my clients is what I call the jackpot formula. It's very simple. It's the 7 problems that you have faced in your life or career, the 7 passions, things that you really enjoy doing in either your work or in your life, and the 7 powers, the 7 superpowers that you have from your own personal life or your own professional career. And in the middle of that is the sweet spot, which is your fit. So another way I like to kind of think about it is that, hey, if you're booking a wedding photographer, right, for you and your partner, and the one who which one will you choose, right? Number 1, who shoots weddings, newborns, food photography, street photography, travel photography, and all of that? Yeah, sure, right? Or you go for number 2, who just specialize in wedding photography. Or number 3, maybe you and your partner, you are really into the Korean dramas and the Korean culture, and you want to shoot a Korean style wedding. And then maybe you go to something like number 3, which specialize in Korean weddings. Or maybe your budget is a little wider and you go for number 4, which is a Korean wedding photographer, but this one specializes in finding the exact movie sets and the exact film locations for those famous dramas or movies that you're interested in. They also have the celebrity makeup artists to come in and do the makeup for you. So if you and your partner are looking for a wedding photographer, and you all have a particular need of funding one who specializes in Korean dramas and Korean culture, and you're very into it, and depending on budget, who would you choose? 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I would guess it's really maybe about 3 or 4, right? And maybe if your budget has a little and you don't have a real budget, maybe you go with 4. But here's the thing, right? Because being a journalist, if you kind of reflect back on yourself, right? Being a journalist, like number 1, feels kind of safe, right? But to the hiring person, if all reads as being risky, right? If I bet my money and time on you, it feels like I'm not sure what I'm going to get, right? So being specific is what feels safe to them. So again, score yourself. If you kind of read this statement, it's like, where are you at in terms of a green, yellow, or red, right? I know exactly the kind of role and a company that fits me. Is it a green, yellow, or red? Write it down. For most of us, I will mark it as a yellow, right? Because usually you can name the level, like senior or staff. You can even name the culture, the company, you want a design matured organization, at this certain size and all that. But you're not specific enough about the problem space and the kind of company that actually solves that. So that's the title. It's not a fit. Second, as we move on, we want to kind of fix your signal. And this is a big one because your signal is how you read in the first few seconds. Can a hiring manager tell what you are worth almost instantaneously? Or do they really have to dig? So I want you to meet Miroslava. Real experience behind her, 18 plus years of experience, but she had a resume that didn't really land and a portfolio that just ran very long without ever saying what she actually worth. And she told me that she felt like she had no clue about what she was doing. And the work that she had was really there. She had spent 18 years in the US government, in the energy sector, doing really good work, but the signal wasn't clear. So after working with me, she had the same experience, there's no change. We just sharpened about how she showed up so that it reads clearly in the first few seconds for the right company about the right problems that she's solving, instead of making people wonder and dig, right? So with a signal fix, not long after, she started as a lead UX product designer at Yes Energy, which is really tied in well with what she previously used to do as well. So moving from government to private sector. And here's how she put it in her own words, right? And she said her LinkedIn presence and her whole career story felt a lot more polished and confident right now. And that's fixing your signal. So same for you. finally readable. All right. So again, score yourself. A hiring manager could tell what I'm worth in the first few seconds of my profile. Where does that sit? Is it a green, yellow, or red for you? I'll mark this red for most people. So be honest here, because this is the one that actually going to cost you the most as well, right? So third, polish your proof. This isn't about making your work prettier. This is about making your impact impossible to miss. Most portfolios bury the impact under processes and screenshots, right? So here's a real before and after, right? So here is the before. A designer that I coach had this line in her portfolio: improve the review workflow, right? Which is true, just what she actually did. But it tells the hiring manager nothing about the impact that you have, right? It's just an activity. So here's the same project. After we ran through the numbers that she already had in her head when I was coaching her. Who uses it? How often? How long before? How long after? And later, what we came up back with is that, redesign the entire B2B report review workflow used by VDC managers at 1,000 plus construction companies, helped reduce the task time by 60%, estimated to save £56 annually or euros annually per customers in productivity value, right? So again, she had the same type of work, but suddenly it becomes impossible to ignore. And more importantly, it becomes clearer in terms of the value that she brings. So this is about polishing a proof, not prettier, but qualified and quantify it. Because all of this, I learned it the hard way, right? Back then at DBS Bank, where I was the assistant vice president as a design coach over there, I also had to struggle, right? When I was presenting to a board of C-suites, the CEO, my chief data and transformation officer, the managing directors and all that, we had to learn about how to present something that was a bit like touchy, which is like improving meeting experience, into something concrete and tangible and data-driven. So we really had to crack our heads into how do we then quantify something that is almost feels unquantifiable. So then here's the stories and numbers. And very simple. It's a longer story, but I just want to try and share with you the numbers and how we can get it. So here's the maths on the page, right? So there were 30,000 employees. They have about 7 meetings a day. There's about 236 working days in a year, minus the annual leave and all of the weekends and everything. And per meeting, when we track and we did the surveys and all, the before and after, the delta, it was about 1 to 2 minutes. So we take the average of it, which is 1.5 minutes saved per meeting. And we also calculated there was about a 44% adoption for this activity or this movement or this initiative, and an average hourly rate of an employee in the bank, where we look at the lowest per staff all the way to the CEO, is around $50 an hour to average. So when you kind of do the math and just multiply it all together, it comes to about 545,000 hours saved per year. And when you translate to the $50 per hour salary, that's about 27 million in productivity gain every single year, right? So I want to ask you as well, as you score yourself, because this is important. Does my portfolio and case study prove my impact fast in numbers and not just some nice visuals and not some catchphrases and all right, and taglines and jargons? So rate yourself. Is it a green, yellow, or red? This is going to be yellow for most people because the work is there, but the translation of the impact is just buried or missing. And that is true. If that's you, that's fine, right? So what we have here now then is stage 1, where you find your fit your signal, polish your proof, and you can go from then being invisible to being seen, where the right people can finally tell what you're worth really fast. Now we move on to stage 2. And this is where now the right people can see you. And you need to actually talk to them. And this is the scary part, right? Because on the flip side, where most people are at is that they is a ghosted networking. Either you don't have much of a network or you have tried reaching out and it went nowhere. And the messages feels a little awkward, right? It sometimes can feel a little salesy, and they get left on red. So you stop and you go back to applying because it feels safer. And you feel like, hey, this thing that I've tried isn't really working, right? So there's three things that changes that and fixes this. First, we want to build up your dream list, not network more. That's a vague and exhausting advice that you hear a ton already. But this is being more specific. We want to find the right people at the right company on the list that you actually want to work for and want to work from as well. This will be 10 companies that you really love to work at, and 10 people and the right people inside of each of those companies. And that would be your dream 100. So meet Andreas. Andreas has like 20 plus years of experience and fewer than 200 LinkedIn connections when I work with him, right? A very tiny network. And instead of waiting for one job role or one right connection to magically appear, we map out the right companies and the right people that he would love to work at and gave him a focus list to work from. And from his first 10 messages that he sent out, more than a third of those people replied. And from under 200 connections, within his first week, he was already in real conversations, long conversations in the DM, and some even translated into calls as well, where he eventually, 10 weeks later, he landed a fintech contract role at a company that he wanted, which matches his experience as well. Above, and the rate that he got was 35% above his old rate, right? So it's an increase in his compensation as well. And here is how he put it himself. Let me show you a video.
That was about 3 to 4 months already. I was doing it on my own, just reaching out to recruiters, to applying for jobs. And I became more and more aware that it did not work again anymore. And I really became aware because I was facing it the same. Something is not working anymore. It's not about my skills. It's about, how to position, how to become aware of everything and also to present it. This was also a pain point for my applications because people didn't recognize me. My LinkedIn profile was really weak and not really helpful and all of this. But for me, it was missing the whole strategy, the whole approach to what to change and how to reach out. And you directly, made it very visible to create new doors, to create new channels, the backdoor thing, to reach out to people and to become more aware, make people more aware of myself. Yeah.
Awesome. So really, you don't need a big network. You just need the right list, right? So ask yourself and score yourself, right? I have a clear list of the exact people inside of my target companies that I want to reach out. Where are you at? Is it a green, yellow, or is it a red? Right? Score yourself. And I'm going to score like yellow for most people here because you probably have some companies that you want to work at in mind, but you just haven't mapped out the actual people in your list. All right, moving on. Second, which is to open up warm chats. And the fear lives right here. This is the part that most people dread. And so let me take you through and take some of the dread out of it as well. Because you're not sliding into someone's DMs with a pitch. You're not asking strangers for favors. You are starting a genuine conversation with someone you actually want to know. And you will know exactly what to open with and what to say in the chat and how to leave it somewhere that invites the next one. So meet Sarah. And because she's one of my favorite examples to share as well. Sarah wanted to work in an arts and culture industry, a very tiny niche, especially here in Singapore as well. So instead of applying, she founded a creative director at a place that she admired and she dreamed to work at. And she just reached out, genuinely. They connected, they exchanged messages and had a real back and forth conversation. But back then, there was no role open at that time, right? But the conversations put her on his radar. And this is one of the projects that she did for another company that really caught the attention of the hiring manager as well at the dream agency when she looked at her portfolio, right? So after that, she didn't push, right? She just stayed at the top of mind. And months later, when a role did open up, he came back to her. Not she came to him. He came back to her. One chat with the creative director, and the next day, she had the offer. No application, no queue that she has to wait, just a conversation that she has started months earlier, then quietly turned into the right opportunity. And during the time that she was, waiting for that as well, she was doing freelancing and had a number of clients as well. But waiting for this right opportunity that comes by. And today, she's doing some of the best work of her life. I literally saw it recently in the public train station here in Singapore as well. It's really amazing work as well. So that is a warm chat, not a pitch. A relationship that opens up a door later, that builds trust over time. So I want you to score yourself. Hey, am I having real conversations with people inside of my target company right now? Right? Is it a green, yellow, or is it a red for you? And I'll mark this red for most people because if you're applying instead of talking to people, that's a red. Third, we want to lead with value. The fastest way to stop being a stranger and start being someone that they want to meet is to show value first. Not can you look at my resume, can you look at my portfolio, something that actually helps them, that shows how you think. Because the thing here is that people say no to job seekers, but they say yes to problem solvers. So what you want to be is to be a problem solver, right? So stop asking for a job. You want to bring them something useful first. So here is one of my best examples, one of the designers that I admire ever since the start of my design education, my design career, right? When I was studying as a design student. This is Andrew Kim. Andrew Kim is a designer that I've looked up to back, when I was in design school. Right. And he was given, back then it was when he was a student, right, in Art Center in Pasadena in US. He was given an assignment by his professor to redesign a popsicle. So instead, he redesigned the whole of Microsoft, a full rebrand concept, and then posted on his blog. He never applied anywhere. I think during that time, he only took about 3 days to kind of do it over the time. And it got picked up by The Verge, by Fast Company, and even by Microsoft's own blog. And Microsoft hired him onto the Xbox design team. He led with value. He showed that what he could do before anyone asked him, and the opportunity came to him. So what I've learned is that when you lead with value, you stop sounding like someone who is asking for a favor, and you start looking like someone who can already help out as well. So what I did is then I turned this into what I call now the backstage pass. Proof before permission, where you want to find the right people, you want to build real relationship with them, and you want to show them proof that can earn their trust. Because at the end of the day, hiring is all about risk management or managing the risk, right? Because for me as a hiring manager, one of the greatest fears I have is making a wrong hire, a wrong hiring decision. Because if I make that, I have to fire the person, which is another whole ordeal and experience itself. And then I repeat the whole hiring process all over again. Time, money wasted, all wasted all over again. And worst case scenario is that with the hire that I want to make is to capture a market opportunity. That could cost the company thousands, if not millions of dollars as well. So again, hiring is all about risk management and managing that risk. So when you just present your resume, your portfolio, and just going through the interview, and that's why we have so many rounds and just so many critics on that, is just because we're managing that risk. You want to make sure that you're wrong hire because there's so many fake interviews. Interviews are supported by AI, answers that maybe not sound like them, or portfolios that is not even their work, resumes that is written but then fluff up with fake data, fake information. So we do not know. We have to go through that whole vetting process. But instead, on the other end of the spectrum is trust, where you have things like the backstage passes, you have internal referrals where you borrow trust from those people that the hiring managers themselves have trust, or you have those real honest conversations with those hiring managers as well. And this is where we want to kind of manage that risk, right? And make it easier for the hiring managers to make the right hiring decision. So I want you to score yourself. I showed value first, so people see me as a solution before I ever ask for anything. Where do you sit? Is it a green for you? Is it a yellow? Or is it a red? I think for this one, red would be for most people because almost nobody leads with value, which is very weird. And at the same time, it's exactly why it works. So this is stage 2. You want to build your list, open up warm chats, lead with value, and then from the ghosted networking, you can turn into real conversation with people who are actually inside the company, and more importantly, who actually decides on who gets hired. So then we move on to stage 3, and this is the one that most people skip, and because this is where the offer is actually won or lost. So the flip side here is the stalled interview, where you get into the rooms and then it's stalled. You hit the final round and hear that, hey, we went with another different direction, we went with another candidate, or you got no feedback at all. And even if this feedback, you can't even use it as well, right? Or the conversation are just nice and it's going well, but they go nowhere. Or you get an offer and just take whatever is put in front of you. This stage is a longer stretch than the first two. And it's the part that people rush. Conversations comes fast, turning them into an offer takes a lot more work. So here are 3 things that will make the difference. Because end of the day, certainty wins. When you remove risk, you become the obvious hire. When you remove risk, you become the obvious hire. So this whole process is about how can we remove the risk so that we can build trust. So first, we want to own the room, right? And here's the good news. This is probably the one that you're already strong at. And you are experienced, you have sat through dozens of interviews, you can hold a room, you can present your work. I'm sure you've done it in your career. So usually for this part here, people don't have too much of an issue, right? Because the interview itself, how I like to think about it, is like a trust audit, not a test, all right? The panel isn't grading your knowledge, right? It's not a university, it's not a assessment or a test. They're deciding on one thing. Can they trust you with their problems? So you tell clear stories that lower their risk, not a tour of everything that you have done. So I've got a 5-part framework for this, which I call trust, TRUST. But the headline is simple, right? Story beats all these claims. So again, on this trust, risk to trust meter, where you're at, right? The whole goal is to move further to the right-hand side. So I want you to score yourself this, right? When I get into a room, I can hold my own and present my work clearly. And is it a green, yellow, or red for you? And I think this part here is going to be a green for most of you. And sit with that for a second, right? If you're generally good in the room and you're still not getting the offers that you want, the room was never your problem. It is the 6 things before this. And that's the whole reason you're here in watching this video still. So the second part is about painting the future. And this is where strong designers quietly lose out because almost no one does it. And which is exactly, again, why it works. When you get into that final round, you don't just answer questions and hope that they like you, right? You show them what lives look like after they hired you. That's the real difference. So I want you to meet Gary, all right? Gary is a personal friend, but I also kind of want to work with him. And when I understand his story, he just walked away from a startup that he co-founded. His confidence was very, very low at that point of time. And back then he was only making about 4K a month. So after we kind of worked together, a lot changed, right? So I helped him through the different part of the process. But the part that Gary did perfectly is this. He walked into the final interview with a 90 days plan. Not like, here's my experience. Instead, here's how I show you how I help you win in my first 30, 60, and 90 days. And every line is tied to a real outcome of the work that he plans to do, right? The panel feedback was this, that's like, hey, this is really impressive. You've shown us like how you actually would solve our problems. And a week later, he had the offer, more than doubled his last salary at a company that fits his life, not just his resume. And Gary, so for context again, Gary is a marketing leader, not a designer. So this move is even more so universal that, it can double his pay. So for you, which is even stronger because you, as a designer, you can show them real design outcomes, real screens, real visuals, real prototypes, a real plan, and not just this plan, right, of words and slides and all, right? So you as a designer, this is going to work even much stronger. So this is what he shared with me, as well shared publicly on his LinkedIn post as well, right? Which number 7 is that, hey, he sought help from me. And he began to understand the right roles for his skills and his inspiration, which is great for him. And more importantly, is like help him find that dream job when he's not able to land it without the help of me. So a lot of nice things. But I think more importantly is like the post that he shared later about the life after work at a company that he is enjoying, which really embrace the values that he believes in as well. I think that itself is like super important, right? Not just the work you do, but also the company and the culture and the people over there. So I want you to score yourself this, right? Before the final decision, I showed them a concrete plan for my first 90 days, built from the conversations that we already had through the interview or through the conversations prior. Is it a green, a yellow, or a red for you? In this one here, I would say that it's mostly a red for nearly everyone, because almost no one ever walks into a final round with an actual plan, or even after that and sending that over to the hiring manager. And I think that is the gap. And that's also the opportunity. And because it's the fastest way to go from a candidate they like to have to the one that is an obvious hire for them. So moving on, third, which is to claim your worth. Most people leave money on the table because they are so relieved to get an offer and they'll just say yes, right? Claiming your worth is simpler than it sounds. You show enough value that the bigger number just makes sense for the company. So I want you to meet me, right, Joseph? So this is my own story. When I joined ContactOut, my last company, the CEO already had offered me the role. Yeah, he wants to hire me already. He wrote it in an email. So instead of saying yes on the spot, I paused and use it to show how I think. What I propose back is to audit the onboarding of their onboarding flow of their Chrome extension and their products and everything that's tied to that, and fix it to a number that in a real recommendation that I can share with them, right? So I skip the polished mockups because there isn't much time, but I just really want to show them the thinking, and more importantly, how is it like if we actually work together? So here's an example of the cover page of what I did. I kind of frame it as a design challenge. I even pitched to him to do a design challenge, right? To get that. And then this is some examples of the screens inside, where I just put it on a Miro page and just put post-it notes on the screens. Very simple. Nothing. It's just like an honest reflection of the work there. So I'm going through the screens and going through the websites and all. And after that, by the time we talk about money, I've already started solving their problems, and that changed everything. The offer was $15,000 a month, 50% more than my last current salary back then, which was 10K monthly salary. I came in as their first designer and built that into a 9-person product design and content team across 6 countries. Since I joined, the company ARR, or annual recurring revenue, also went up by almost 3x, from 4.5 million to 13 million by the time I left. And the total users also increased by 10x from 400K to 4 million users as well. So clearly, the investment in me paid off for them, as well as it showed a clear return on investment for them as well. So I want you to kind of picture this as well, right? And ask yourself, hey, when an offer comes in, I negotiated from a place of proof and calm instead of taking the first number out of relief. Where is it for you? Is it a green, yellow, or a red? This is going to be yellow for most people. The really calm takes over and you grab the first number. It's not wrong, right? Because especially if the first number is good. But if you have done the other 8 things right, you have earned the leverage to ask. Right? And sometimes it makes it easier to ask because they offer you the great number, right? The right number as well. All right. So this is stage 3. Own the room, paint the future, claim your worth, and your stored interviews would then turn into an offer that you actually would want on your terms. So this is the backdoor plan. 9 things across 3 different stages. Now look at your scores. Now you have a map of your own job search right in front of you. Some might be green. Probably a lot of it is yellow and reds, right? And that's normal, right? But that itself is going to be super useful for you, right? Because here's the question that really matters, right? If there were 3 of those things, just 3, right, that you could fix in the next 30 to 60 days, Which three would change everything for you? Circle them. I want you to circle them and highlight them or just underline them because that is your starting point. And that is the constraint that's actually holding you back. And for most of us, it could be this, which is fixing your signal, polishing your proof, and maybe even opening up those warm chats. Because these are typically the ones that I see most experienced designers struggling with, especially around articulating their impact with their case studies and the projects that they have done, fixing the signal in the first few seconds so that hiring managers and recruiters can see clearly who they are, the problems that they solve, and the value that they bring, especially around opening up warm chats. I think speaking and having direct warm conversation with hiring managers in their dream companies and their target companies, that itself is a real struggle for most people. And every one of those 9, I want to know is that there is a system behind it. The exact steps, the tools, the templates, the way to actually do this. And that's why I do inside the Backdoor, my weekly coaching for experienced designers like yourself. $100 a week, cancel anytime, no lock-in. You stay while it's working and stop if it's not. If you want to see how it works for your situation, here's all you have to do. Go to the page below and put your name and email, and I'll send you the full breakdown so that you can read it and decide it for yourself. No cost to book with me, no pressure to make a decision. Just have a look, and it's for you. You will know. If it's not for you, you also know too, right? No worries. And I wish you the best in your job search and your career. So the best thing and best time to take control of your career was probably a while ago. The next best time is now. Put in your details and I'll share with you the details on how to get you from feeling invisible and being invisible to an offer that you actually want. All right? I see you on the inside. See you later.